Hello everybody, I'm ADKAR Mishra. I'm your course instructor for Essential Life Skills. This is a session on change management. Let's take a look at different change styles. There are various change styles. The first important change style is the conserver style. Conserver style people or leaders accept the current structure, systems and processes. That means they're not very open to change. They're not very excited by the idea of adapting to changes or even change itself. So they are very comfortable, therefore they accept the current structure. They're comfortable with the current structure, systems and processes. They are the champions of incremental change. So conservers are leaders who are champions of incremental change. That means they want change to happen in increments, not in one go, a complete upside down change. And they are also strong advocates of continuous improvement within the established business model or the organization. That means conservers are people who are ready to accept change, but at a slower rate, at a slower pace. They accept change gradually, not in one go. So they are conservers. The second change style is the originator style. There are originators, leaders as originators. They like to challenge current structures, systems and processes, unlike the conservers who do not challenge. They accept, they are comfortable with, they are happy with the current structures, the systems and the processes. But originators challenge these systems. Hence, they are the champions of expansive business model change and tend to focus on new possibilities, vision and direction. So they are not scared of taking that calculated risk because they can easily challenge the established or existing structures, systems and processes because they believe in an expansion model. And that's the reason why they are originators. With them, new things originate. And then we have the pragmatists. Pragmatists are change leaders who tend to focus on getting the job done. They are the champions of change that is functional, that is action-oriented, and often see merit in the perspectives of both conservers and originators. That means they believe in creating or striking a balance, a fine balance between the conservers and the originators. And they stand somewhere in between these two types of change leaders. So they are pragmatists. They always adopt a very practical approach to change. If they think a change is necessary, it is quite essential at this point, they will adopt that immediately, without any doubt. If they are not very confident about the change, they will wait for some time. They will go for incremental change. Yes, they are a combination of the conservers and the originators. So they are the pragmatists. That brings us to a very important model of change. There are various models of change. Some of them are meant for big setups, big organizations. Some of them are meant for both the individuals and the organizations. So take a look at this change model. It is very popularly called the ADKAR model, the ADKAR approach to change leadership. So we are talking about change leadership, which depends a lot on accepting changes around oneself. It depends a lot on being able to cultivate that ability to adapt to changes around us. It also depends a lot on the ability to make changes happen. So the ADKAR approach to change leadership tells us that the first important thing, that is A, awareness of the need for change. For any change to happen, a leader has to be aware of the need for change. If a leader thinks that there is no need for a change, no change can ever happen. Before any change can happen, the leader has to be aware of it. So, an awareness of the need for change, that means a need analysis, is very, very important. The leader has to conduct a need analysis. Is there a need for this organization? Is there a need for me as an individual to change, to unlearn something and relearn something else? So it all begins with awareness. The second important step in this model, that is D, desire to participate and support the change. So any change can happen only when a leader shows that desire to participate and support the change. If the leader doesn't show any desire, no change can ever happen. So as a leader, I must support the change. Simultaneously, I must also participate in that change. That means I become one of the members who is responsible or instrumental for that change. The third important step in this model is the K step, that is knowledge on how to change. Change doesn't mean that we'll just turn everything upside down without even understanding, realizing what is happening, what is needed, or what is necessary. It is not about adopting a very wayward and uncontrollable approach to change. Change doesn't mean that we'll go on turning everything upside down. A proper knowledge on how to change is very, very important. I can keep on saying, I must change myself, I must change myself. If I do not know how to change myself, that's a question. Yes, I got your point. You must change yourself. My listener may tell me, but how do you change yourself? Have you thought about it? Do you have any knowledge on how to change yourself? That's the most important thing. Yes, I want to change myself in these ways. If I can say that, then I prove that I have knowledge on how to change. The fourth important step is A step, that is ability to implement required skills and behaviors. Do I have an ability to implement required skills and behaviors that will complement the change? Is a big question that I need to answer if I go for change. So I must develop that ability to implement required skills, because for any change to happen, we need a set of skills. We need a set of behaviors, starting with an acceptability to an adaptability. We'll have to show different types of behavior towards that particular change, and that will depend a lot on an ability to implement these skills and behaviors. The fifth and the last step in this model, the R step, is a reinforcement to sustain the change. Changes are easy. We can always bring in change to something, but it is difficult to sustain that change. It's not that we'll change every day, every second, every third day. We'll change every month. An organization cannot afford that privilege. It will fail. An individual cannot afford that privilege. The individual will fail. Therefore, it's important that we know how to reinforce, to sustain that change. That means periodically we reinforce that change. So this is the ADKAR approach to change leadership. With the help of this model, we can look at the whole idea of change leadership well. The ADKAR approach, I must tell you all, was developed by Jeff Hyatt, founder of the Change Management Consulting and Research Group, PROSHI, as a way to foster and develop change-oriented culture. And that's the reason why this model is so very popular, is so very important for all of us. There are other models as well, you can think of this. In contrast to the Carter method, that is again another model of change leadership, the Carter model of change leadership. In contrast to the Carter model, the ADKAR approach works best with individuals, and that's the reason why I have taken it up for your information, rather than groups or entire organizations. Because I'm talking about essential life skills for individuals. I'm not talking about essential life skills for organizations. When individuals with essential life skills arrive there, the organization itself will have a group of people who are good at essential life skills. Since the ADKAR model is individual oriented, it is important for each individual who is also a change leader to be aware of this model. This model is most effective when managing individual employees or staff members in helping them see and accept the value of change, and then making those employees understand their role within the organization and helping to make the change happen. So change leadership is not just about wishing changes to happen, being able to accept changes or adapt to changes. It is also about creating an ecosystem for change. So before any change happens, we have already created a culture of change. Change leadership is all about thinking about the big picture. It's not about thinking about the small picture. It's the big picture that matters. So how do I, as a change leader, look at the whole scenario in the future, not just today? That matters, because every business cycle, as you can see in this diagram, has a peak, a recession, and a depression or a trough. So every business cycle has this peak and trough. And from the trough, it will recover and then it will expand. It is always a very, very good idea for a change leader to be aware of both the peak and the trough. Before anything hits the trough, before anything begins to decline, the change leaders promptly understand that, and then they do not allow it to hit the trough. They do not allow it to hit the depression stage. Before that, they make changes possible. They effect changes, and that actually gives the organization a much needed lease of life. And that is how the organization, instead of hitting the trough, promptly recovers from it well before it happens. So that's how change leadership is very, very important. And when we develop these important or essential leadership skill in us, we are going to be very, very good leaders. That brings us to the end of this session. I'm sure you have taken note of the things that I talked about, and you're going to explore change leadership further. And when you have done that, you'll feel extremely confident about it, and you can also act as change leaders. I'll meet you again with a new module, and until then, bye-bye.